Have you ever noticed that the more you learn, the lonelier you become? Dostoevsky discovered a truth that humanity prefers to ignore. Knowledge doesn't liberate, it isolates. And perhaps this is the cruelest irony of human existence. When we were children, we saw the world through colored lenses. Everything seemed simple. People were good or bad, endings were happy, and the future shone with infinite promises. But something happened along the way. With each book we read, each experience we lived, each layer of reality we unveiled, we began to notice something disturbing. We were distancing ourselves from the people around us. Dostoevsky, through his tortured and brilliant characters, showed us that there is a terrible price to pay for consciousness. It's no coincidence that his most intellectual protagonists are also the most isolated, the most anguished, the most misunderstood. They see what others cannot see, feel what others cannot feel, and carry burdens that others don't even know exist. Think of Raskolnikov, the young intellectual from Crime and Punishment. His superior intelligence led him to theories about the right to kill, about the superiority of certain people over others. But this same intelligence isolated him from common humanity, transformed him into a prisoner of his own thoughts. Or consider the underground man who confesses his bitter truth to us: I am alone and they are together. The issue isn't that intelligent people are antisocial by nature. The issue is much deeper and more disturbing. When we begin to question truths that others accept without thinking, when we see contradictions that others ignore, when we feel complexity where others see simplicity, we create an abyss between us and the world. It's as if we were the only ones awake in a room full of sleeping people. We can scream, we can try to wake others, but most of the time we only manage to disturb them. And then we learn to remain silent, to smile when we don't feel like it, to wave when we'd prefer to hide. We learn to live a double existence, one public, where we pretend to belong, and one private, where we face the emptiness of solitary understanding. But why does this happen? Why does knowledge, which should connect us with humanity, end up separating us from it? Perhaps you've already felt this, that moment when you realize your conversations have become superficial, that your jokes no longer make sense to others, that your concerns sound strange to foreign ears. Perhaps you've already experienced the loneliness of being at a crowded party, surrounded by people, but feeling as if you were observing everything through glass. It's not arrogance. It's not superiority. It's something much more painful. It's the gradual perception that we exist on a different frequency. It's discovering that what keeps us awake at night barely registers in others' consciousness. It's realizing that our existential anxieties are seen as overthinking or complicating things. I remember a conversation I had recently. Someone told me, "You think too much about these things. Life is simple, you just live it." And there, in that apparently innocent phrase, was all the distance that knowledge had created between us. For her, I was unnecessarily complicating things. For me, she was sleeping deeply. Dostoevsky understood this loneliness like few others. His characters carry the weight of seeing through the masks people wear, of perceiving hypocrisy where others see virtue, of feeling pain where others see normalcy. They are like surgeons of the human spirit, capable of diagnosing diseases that the patients themselves refuse to recognize. And perhaps the cruelest thing is realizing that this loneliness isn't temporary. It's not something that passes with time or can be cured with more knowledge. In fact, the more we learn, the more we delve into the mysteries of existence, the more this distance widens. It's like climbing a mountain. At first, you're surrounded by other hikers. Everyone follows the same trail, shares the same challenges, celebrates the same achievements. But as you climb, people get left behind. Some give up, others choose easier paths, others simply decide they've climbed high enough. And you continue climbing alone because something inside you can't stop seeking what's at the top. If this idea has already resonated with you, imagine what comes next. Subscribe to not miss this journey. But here's where the story takes a turn. Dostoevsky didn't stop at the observation of loneliness. He went further and discovered something revolutionary. That this loneliness, however painful it may be, carries within itself the seeds of the most profound human transformation. See, when we're isolated from conventional truths, when we can no longer hide behind the crowd's opinions, when we're forced to face naked reality, something extraordinary happens. We begin to develop a strength that ordinary people never needed to develop, the strength to bear truth alone. It is in this loneliness that the greatest works of art were born, the most profound philosophies, the most revolutionary scientific discoveries. It is in the isolation forced by knowledge that the human mind reaches its most impressive heights. Dostoevsky wrote his masterpieces precisely because he experienced this loneliness firsthand. Think of humanity's great geniuses. Van Gogh painted his most brilliant canvases in the deepest loneliness. Nietzsche developed his revolutionary philosophy isolated from the academic world. Tesla invented the future working alone in his laboratory. They all paid the price of knowledge with the currency of loneliness. But there's a crucial difference between loneliness that destroys and loneliness that builds. The difference lies in acceptance. When we fight against our condition, when we rebel against the fact of being different, when we desperately try to fit where we don't belong, loneliness becomes hell. But when we accept our nature, when we embrace our difference as a gift instead of a curse, something magical happens. Loneliness transforms into solitude, and solitude is the garden where the most beautiful human creations flourish. Dostoevsky discovered that the person who accepts their intellectual loneliness develops a special form of compassion. When you understand the pain of being alone with your thoughts, you also understand the pain of others who live this same experience. You become capable of offering something few can give: genuine understanding. More than that, you discover that your mission isn't to convert people to your truths, but to serve as a bridge between different worlds. You become a translator, capable of taking deep insights and transforming them into language that others can understand, even if not completely. The loneliness of knowledge teaches us patience. It teaches us humility. It teaches us that our function isn't to judge those who see less, but to plant seeds that might germinate in future generations. It teaches us that sometimes the greatest act of love is carrying truths that others are not yet ready to bear. But there's an even deeper secret that few know. The secret that Dostoevsky revealed through his deepest characters is this: the loneliness of knowledge isn't punishment, it's initiation. It's the rite of passage to a superior level of human existence. When you completely accept your intellectual loneliness, when you stop fighting against it and begin to inhabit it as your natural home, you discover something extraordinary. You're not really alone. You're connected to an invisible lineage of truth seekers that spans centuries. Every person who ever questioned, who sought, who endured the pain of seeing beyond the veil of appearances is part of this silent fraternity. Plato is with you when you contemplate the shadows on the cave wall. Marcus Aurelius is with you when you meditate on the transitory nature of existence. Dostoevsky is with you when you feel the weight of moral consciousness. The loneliness that knowledge brings isn't emptiness, it's fullness. It's the fullness of belonging to the oldest and noblest of human traditions, the tradition of those who dared to think, to feel, to question, even when it separated them from the crowd. And here's the most surprising revelation of all. When you stop trying to fill this loneliness with superficial connections, when you stop trying to explain yourself to people who cannot understand, when you completely accept your unique condition, you become free. Free to create without worrying about approval. Free to love without needing to be completely understood. free to live your truth without asking the world's permission, free to be a channel through which universal wisdom can flow. Dostoevsky understood that those who carry the burden of knowledge also carry the responsibility of being lighthouses for others, not to force them to see what we see, but to be available when they're ready to see. Knowledge brings loneliness, yes, but this loneliness is the price we pay for our elevated humanity. It's the cost of being real in a world full of representations, of being deep in an age of superficialities, of being authentic in an era of masks. Dostoevsky left us a precious legacy, the understanding that our intellectual loneliness is not a defect to be corrected, but a gift to be honored. It's through this loneliness that we touch what's most sacred in human experience, the capacity to transcend our common condition and become bridges between the finite and the infinite. The next time you feel the weight of loneliness that comes with knowledge, remember, you're in excellent company. You're walking on the same road that all great truth seekers walked before you, and your loneliness, far from being punishment, is the distinctive mark of a soul that dared to wake up in a sleeping world. Knowledge brings loneliness, but it also brings freedom. And perhaps, in the end, this is the most beautiful of compensations. If this message touched your soul like this video, leave your comment sharing your own experience with the loneliness of knowledge, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue this awakening journey together. Share it with someone who needs to understand they're not alone in their search for truth.